Hello, dear listeners. It's your host and game master, Brian. I wanted to share some super exciting news with you. When our latest mystery wraps up, we will officially be at the halfway point for our first season of the show. To celebrate, we are hosting a Q&A with the show's cast, and we want to hear from you. Yes, listener, you! So, if there's anything you want to know, from how a specific cast member came up with their character, to how we got into RPGs, or even some of our show's, to date, unsolved mysteries, send us your questions. You can email them to old.seattle.pod@gmail.com, post your question directly on any of our social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Threads, or even send us a text message via the link on every episode. Don't forget to include your name and anything you'd like us to shout out when you submit your question. We cannot wait to hear from you. Now, I'll let you get back to the episode. Welcome to another episode of Spirits and Monsters of Old Seattle. I am your host and game master, Brian Kershaw. My pronouns are he, him, and I will be leading us through this cavalcade of ridiculousness and also ridiculous horrors. But I am thankfully not alone. I am joined by several stalwart investigators who will help lead through today's interlude session as we dive into the summer here in Seattle. First up, Bill, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure thing. Hello, my name is Bill Kruska. I am playing Dr. Lucius Jensen. He is, you might pick up from his name, a doctor archetype, and both our pronouns for myself and for the character are he, him.
Fantastic. And next up, Phoenix.
Hello, I am Phoenix Biscom, playing our lovely socialite, Julian Benavides, and both of us go with he, him pronouns.
Marvelous. And last but never ever least, Erin.
I am, as Brian just mentioned, I'm Erin, she, her, and I play Sofie Inge's daughter, who is an academic archetype, and she also goes by she, her.
Fantastic. All right, now, before we dive into the material for this session, we're going to do a super quick recap because the last two episodes did have some pretty heavy content in them. So some folks might just be skipping ahead, jumping right to here. So as a super quick recap, during our last two episodes, our investigators managed to successfully infiltrate the Wilderness Heights Sanitarium, where they found monstrous conditions under the eyes of Linda and Sam Hazard. Linda briefly tried to persuade Dr. Jensen to lend his medical expertise at the sanitarium, but was, let us say, rebuffed. Dr. Jensen and the rest of the PCs decided that they were not going to be sticking around when they overheard the Hazards saying they would put some intake paperwork together and that Sam knew a good spot to take them to the woods. Not intending to get killed by some two-bit murderers, they escaped with Anne and Thomas, leaving a handful of dead orderlies in their wake. They broke the curse on Anne, and we then learned the fate of a steamship traveling from Bergen, and again saw the mysterious tall man. That's probably nothing, though. You don't need to worry about that.
Oh, good.
Psychopaths be like, I know a place in the woods, and then they take you out and shoot you.
Maybe it was for a picnic. A murder picnic.
It's romantic.
All right, so
This is
fully
fine.
caught up on everything that's happened. We are going to have an interlude in between our previous mystery and what's coming up next. We've got something kind of exciting planned. Now, it's been several weeks since the strange fogs had rolled in from the waters of the Puget Sound. and just as suddenly, they disappeared a few days later. Locals chalked it up to just some of the strange weather that occurs in the Pacific Northwest, and thought little of it. They had bigger and more important things to think about. It is a well-regarded truth to anyone who has lived any time in Seattle that summer doesn't really begin until the 4th of July. As if playing a practical joke, the month of June begins to warm up, skies will clear, and then take a sudden turn back to cold, dark, drizzling rain. But, as if by magic, come July, the weather clears up, and you finally start to feel warm again. To celebrate the arrival of summer days, the city of Seattle has decided to hold a carnival. Now, no one is quite certain how the festival began several years back, but many suspect that the local mayor and entrepreneur, Henry Yesler, may have had a hand in organizing it. Called the Axeman's Carnival, lumberjacks from up and down the Puget Sound come out to celebrate and participate in a number of games and festivities. Set up along the banks of Lake Washington, there are opportunities to meet and socialize with people from all over the Northwest. There are even prizes for those bold enough to compete and win in games. And of course, local crafters and businesses make a killing off the hungry and hard-drinking lumberjacks, eager to spend their wages on hot food, strong drink, and eager company. Agents of the library wouldn't typically be needed at such an event, as there's no supernatural danger or threat that they know of. However, Master Matthias Knudsen has personally asked 3 of his investigators to check out the Axeman's Carnival this year. While he does wish that it was a chance to relax, rumors have reached Ballard of a peculiar vendor selling strange, potentially even supernatural goods. Matthias would like to know for certain whether these rumors are true, and if his investigators get a chance to unwind after a particularly challenging mystery, so much the better. Together, Julian, Sofie, and Dr. Jensen wind their way through the crowds along the lakeshore. Barkers shout for attention from stalls and wagons, promising everything under the sun if you'll only purchase their product. Burly men and women bedecked in heavy flannels shout challenges and look forward to chopping logs and timbers. Beneath a large orange tent, music plays quite pleasantly, and callers shout out instructions to enthusiastic dancers. And around bonfires sit groups of lumberjacks, drinking mulled cider and wine, and each telling more and more fantastical stories and trying to one-up each other with tall tales. So, the 3 of you are technically on assignment, but it's going to be a pretty low-key kind of one. You are on the lookout for a mysterious merchant who may or may not be selling supernatural goods.
It might behoove us to ask any children who are around who they think is the most exciting vendor, or the most fun, or most mysterious.
Julian bites off a little bit of funnel cake, wipes the whipped cream away from his lip. Well, sounds like a good idea. Mm-hmm.
Well, perhaps someone else should do it. I don't really know how to talk to children. I'm sorry.
I don't know that anyone in this party does.
Julian, you're the closest to being... You're so young. Maybe you would know something about what to say to them.
Yeah. When you're talking to kids, you just talk to them, and it's pretty much the same. You just generally don't swear as much. Yeah, no problem. I got this.
As soon as you said don't swear as much, Dr. Jensen just counted himself out.
I don't think you should have your flask out in front of little children either, so that might be an issue.
Oh, they'll think it's cool. No, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Keep it out.
Okay.
They'll think it's cool.
Again, this is a lumberjack town. You're probably fine drinking in front of kids. All right, so the way this interlude is going to work is before you really commence with getting your search underway, there's some opportunities for you. There are a few things going on at this carnival if you would like to participate in them.
So, yes.
It's optional. You don't have to. But if you wanted to, there are 4 events that you could choose to participate in. You will only have time to participate in one of these, but if you succeed, you will gain an advantage that you can carry forward to future mysteries.
Ooh.
Is that one event each investigator or one for the
one
three of
event
us?
each investigator.
Okay.
So you guys can easily split up and do whatever most interests you. The 4 events are burling, which is log rolling. Basically, an investigator and a lumberjack will both get on a log that's out in the lake and attempt to walk on it, getting it spinning and get it so the other person gets knocked off.
Sofie is 1000% not doing that.
Oh, come on. That seems right up her alley.
All the books, she's not getting her books wet. You're insane.
She'd be extra buoyant.
There are some other options.
Sofie, there is a solution for this. I can hold the books.
Okay. And she starts taking all the books out. And by the time he has like 14 books, he's like, this is a lot of books. And she's like, I'm not done.
I have regret.
It's like the memes of people like, you got to hand over your weapons. And they hand over like 4 weapons. And the one in your boot, and the one in your other boot, and the one on your thigh, and the one up your sleeve. And
I guess that's a good question. Is this swole Julian yet, or not yet? Is this how it's?
We'll get to that.
Come to
We'll get to that.
Swole Julian.
We'll get to character level ups.
But no, Sofie's not doing it.
Well, I guess to the point, though, I mean,
Mhm.
has that happened? I haven't talked about it, but has that actually happened?
We'll get to it. But
Okay.
yes, the experience has been spent.
Okay.
Listeners, something's coming.
Things
Julian's
are
shirt's going to
happening.
come off and you're going to be impressed. He's put in some reps at the gym. Other options are axe throwing, the contra dance, where performers take turns playing for a crowd in a semi-organized dance. Although free-flowing alcohol has left them somewhat less coordinated and in need of a good musician or caller. And tall tales and fearsome critters, which is a more or less unofficial competition where lumberjacks are gathering around a bonfire and swapping stories over hot toddies, attempting to one-up each other.
In real life, that one sounds amazing, but there's no way that I'm going to try to come up with a story off the cuff for
Good news,
podcast.
That's what dice rolls are for.
I'm not going to. I'll do axe throwing.
What if I said it was a learning test?
Okay. I'm intrigued. Go on.
Let me tell you, lumberjacks, about the time I found this crazed woman in the hull of a boat.
Well, if she wasn't doing axe throwing before, she sure is now.
Yep, I was about to say, you're about to witness the sequel to this creepy story as Dr. Jensen gets murdered in front of your very eyes. I still have a shotgun.
Let's start with Julian and work our way through. Julian, between burling, axe throwing, contra dancing, or telling tall tales, what would you most like to do?
I mean, I kind of want to do all of them, but
You are limited to one.
Yeah.
It's like that scene from A Knight's Tale where you can't be in all the events at the same time.
Well, crap. I mean, contra dance would seem to be the one that most fits his skill set for sure. But I'm also kind of intrigued by some of the others. I think so. You said Tall Tales is going to be a learning test.
Mm-hmm. That one's going to be an opposed learning test. The contra dancing is going to be an opposed inspiration test.
Ooh.
Axe throwing is going to be an opposed range test. And burling is going to be an opposed agility test.
You know what? I look over to the contra dance and look over to my two fellow investigators, kind of put up a hand. I know. It's usually like I've taken the title for that the past 5 years. It's gotten a little old. So I point over to the axe throwing. I think I'm going to switch things up this year.
All right. It's a useful skill, Julian. I think it's a great idea.
Make a ranged combat test.
All right. Ranged combat is 3 plus precision. 2 successes on 7 dice.
I wonder if you added an outside D6, would it like adulterate the magic of the magic D6s?
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm not going to find out.
Yeah, I wouldn't find out.
So you said you got 2 successes?
Correct. 2 success on 7 dice.
All right. On your opposed roll, there were nothing. So you have taken the prize. You get an additional advantage. And unlike normal advantages, this one won't expire between mysteries. So you have it until you use it.
Nice.
Okay.
You gain the advantage, steady aim.
All right.
I take a look over to my fellow competitor and just kind of nodding at them, badly missing the target. I know that it's going to be all right. Look, all of us have off days sometimes.
Bill, what is Dr. Jensen going to do, if any, of these 4 events?
Well, I guess I'm going to give, can't remember the term you used for the log rolling.
The burling?
Burling, that's what it was. I'll give burling a shot.
Excellent. Make an agility test.
I really like the idea of Dr. Jensen balancing on the thing with the flask in his hand, like using the flask as like
depending on
counterweight.
how many successes he gets. That is definitely in my. So let's see. Just a straight roll for agility.
How'd you do?
Well, out of 6 dice, I had 0 successes.
Do you want to push that roll and break yourself during the interlude?
Right.
Actually, your opponent got 1 die too many for some reason. So let me re-roll that. Well, I made it worse.
Totally saw that coming.
Your opponent rolled 6 dice and got 2 successes. Do you want to try and push that agility roll? I will say if you do, you will be starting the next mystery with a physical condition.
Come on, Dr. Jensen. No one burrows like a doc.
It's okay to just miss once, Dr. Jensen. You don't have to.
Yeah, he signed up more for the spirit of the festival, not to try and win.
Good
This is not his bailiwick, and I do not need to start at a disadvantage next mystery.
You put up a good fight, but eventually the lumberjack that you're facing against kind of does a fake out on the log, and you just can't quite keep up with him.
You know what it was? He did not expect the orderly to start kicking water at him. He just thought it was to see who could stand up, and then when the splashing happened, threw off his game. He was not ready.
It was a no splash zone.
The orderly.
The lumberjack used splash. It was super effective.
Is this a guy from the sanitarium that we didn't murder?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This is Brian needed an easy stat pool to use.
They're all back just to see if they can beat us and would be
trying to get their revenge at the lumberjack festival.
You murdered some of our friends, but now it's time for a dance-off.
They're going for a Pyrrhic victory at this point.
Yeah. And lastly, Sofie, which, if any, events are you going to participate in?
Sofie was eyeing both the axe throwing and the, what'd you call the other one?
The Tall Tales and Fearsome Critters.
Okay. So she was eyeing those guys, and she was also eyeing the axe throwing, but she saw Julian do such a good job at axe throwing, and she's like, I can't beat that. I'm just going to have to... I'm going to go do the other thing.
All right. Make a learning test.
Okay. I'm going to use my non-magical dice. So, yeah. Okay. So learning is 3 plus 5. Hey. My non-magic dice did roll so far 1 success, and then I rolled 2 more. Okay. So 1 success on 8 dice.
All right. That will not quite be enough. You and this one particular lumberjack kind of keep one-upping each other, getting more and more and more ridiculous. Sofie is pulling out all of these fearsome critter stories, about like 50% of which is true. Do you want to push that roll and start with a mental condition?
No, but I will possibly give myself an excuse for not winning.
And what's that?
Is there a beard and is there a braid in it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, it's not her fault. It's not her fault. She's distracted.
She just gets a little sidetracked.
Yeah.
And you just can't quite come up with anything more ridiculous than what he was describing as you're staring into his elaborately woven beard.
Yeah. I have very few weaknesses.
Sophie's weaknesses are books, cats, elaborately braided beards, and witches.
There you go. That's it. That's all 4.
And your friend's locking you in a ship's hold. But only those 5.
That's not a weakness. That's not...
That's a source of vengeance.
Exactly. That's a villain origin story right there.
All right. Now, listener, I think we have tipped our hand a little bit, but we've also done some leveling up. So, Sofie, what have you picked up after our previous mystery?
So Sofie took the Brave talent, which means she gets a +1 to fear checks. She took Mother of Invention, which means she gets to use an item for a different purpose than intended during a mystery. She also took +1 to ranged combat. She's trying to learn how to use that shotgun with which she brutally murdered someone in the last mystery, which was totally fine. She also added to her force and investigation skills.
Nice.
So she's like her quads and her calves are getting pretty beefy because of like carrying all the books around. Like seriously, I mean, she's probably got like 60 pounds of books on her at any given time. Yeah, and she's kind of getting a little better at
just carrying
her skirts and carrying all that around and everything. Yes.
Well, she is shockingly not the most ripped character we're going to be discussing tonight.
No.
But we will get to that. Dr. Jensen, what did you pick up during the level up?
Well, Dr. Jensen focused on... Well, this last mystery was kind of an eye-opener for him, especially when it came to some of the conditions and situations that he can now, in the world he now finds himself in. So he took a few general talents as well as one doctor talent. So first one was defensive, which allows you to gain an extra fast action for dodge or parry.
Perfect.
So the second talent is combat trained, so I will have +2 close combat or +2 to force when parrying. And then finally there is emergency medicine, which I'm able to ignore all mental conditions when using medicine.
Nice.
So that'll help me at least do the doctoring a little bit better.
Excellent. Just one quick note, too. We do have a small errata on that one. It'll be ignoring physical conditions when making medicine tests.
Oh, okay.
Because medicine is a precision skill, since we're dealing with Civil War era medicine.
Correct. Sorry. Yes. My
No,
apologies.
that's not on you. That's on Free League, because they put it in as a physical skill, but then said you get to ignore mental conditions, and then realized they had to go back and fix it after.
Yes, and then so the final talent that I am taking is actually an archetype talent from the private investigator. So Dr. Jensen will now be gaining focused, where I can ignore mental conditions when investigating.
All right. Gaining a lot of stuff.
Oh, and the last bit, I will be spending 1 XP to be regaining my memento item back from Anne.
I was wondering if we were going to get that back for you.
I was hoping. I missed it, and I was severely afflicted with mental conditions all last mystery.
Yeah, you were. And don't worry, we'll be again.
Yes, that's probably true.
All right, and Phoenix, what has Julian taken for his level ups?
Julian, for his level up, Dr. Jensen had his eyes open to some things, and Julian similarly has had his eyes opened as well. He did not like being shoved into that room. So he has decided he needs to do a little bit of physical conditioning. So Julian has been hitting the gym, putting in some reps on the axe throwing and wood chopping platforms, and he has spent some XP to level up his force skill by 4. So he has been working out a lot. Additionally, he has also put 2 points into inspiration. And finally, similar to Dr. Jensen, has also picked up the combat trained talent. So again, that's a +2 to combat and force, which he's now good at, when parrying.
So ultimately, what you're saying is, nobody puts Julian in the corner.
No, you said that, but I'm on board.
Because if they try it, there'll be some dirty dancing.
Oh my god.
All right. And last but not least, we have a couple of exciting updates to the library. Thanks to the assistance of a grateful Madame Lou Graham, you have a number of workers who are going to help you with the next facility that you build there. And after some deliberation, you decided to get an infirmary. So there are a number of kind of folks who are helping do some building and construction and are building out the infirmary at the library. And you also, in the process, uncovered something. Below a stairwell, you actually discovered an old abandoned cellar vault that you could use for some easy storage.
Regarding the infirmary, Julian and I thought about those guys that we shot, and we were like, what if we got shot? We should make sure that we, don't die. We should get an infirmary.
Seems reasonable.
Dr. Jensen is just standing off to the side, hearing Sofie talk like he's not in the room, and just takes a swig out of his...
Yeah, it's funny. I was kind of thinking the same. It's like, I just kind of like put up like a single finger pointing over to the doctor over there.
I'm kidding. That's so out of character. Sofie doesn't say that.
If anything, Dr. Jensen has been a really good indicator of why you need an infirmary, because he will now be able to be better stocked. So the kind of provisions he would need to be able to help you and to be able to actually put you somewhere that you could recover instead of just a creepy bunk bed are much nicer.
That's great.
Now, for no reason, I'm just going to roll a couple of quick dice.
Uh-oh.
No
I
reason.
don't like
I'm
that.
in danger.
It's fine.
Ooh. That's interesting.
I like that even less.
Uh-huh.
This is good. It's fine.
After this session, I'll need to look up how threats work. But we'll get to that.
Are they threats or are they promises?
Don't worry about it. With me, they're both. All right. Now, we have a couple of small character beats to go through. You each get a chance to kind of spread out, both searching for this mysterious merchant and also just getting to enjoy yourselves a little bit. Doing some burling, telling some tall tales, looking at some beautiful beards, and throwing some axes. Julian, You triumphantly depart the axe throwing range, confident in your amazing axe throwing skills, using your new beefy arms, when you see a familiar face. You actually bump into a young working lady from the sporting house who goes by the name of Dove. Oh my gosh, Julian!
I wipe away the gob of cotton candy from my mouth. Dove! And I sprint at full speed on over to her, and I'm going to do one of those, pick up and spin her around.
Like very dramatic twirls?
Very dramatic twirls. It's going to be great.
She laughs and giggles throughout it, and it is executed flawlessly between the two of you.
I mean, yeah.
She is so happy and gives you a hug, mentions everything has been so much better after whatever you did at the library, or pardon me, at whatever you did at Madame Lou's, and there have been no other problems back since then.
Oh, I am really happy to hear that. I don't think Chonghu has quite forgiven me for being a little bit of a bossy bitch. You know me, sometimes it happens, but I'm really glad.
She just laughs and rolls her eyes.
Yeah, and I nod at that. She's absolutely right. But yeah, I'm super happy to see her. And
she's going to need to run because she's working at the moment, but she was just so happy to run into you. How is Julian feeling about what he did for Madame Lou and the girls? Does he feel like he was able to do enough?
How does he feel about it? He feels good about things that have been eating at him, and not only with what he was able to do for the sporting house, which he is very fiercely protective of what happens there and all of his friends, but also beyond that, what he was able to do for Ms. Dodson. He's feeling a lot more calm and less edgy, less on edge. Mm-hmm. He's still super edgy, but less on edge. And yeah, he's generally feeling pretty good. As far as whether he's done enough for them, I think he always just feels like there's always more that he could be doing. Mm-hmm. But he feels like he's on the right path.
He's in a good place. Fantastic. We kind of drift over this carnival, leaving Julian, who's waving goodbye to Dove, and then focus in on Dr. Jensen, who's getting himself dried off under a towel, kind of shaking off some of the burling not quite going the way he wanted it to. When a couple of the lumberjacks are patting him on the back, talking about like, oh, it was good, but they got you right at the end there. Mm. And you look over, and right on the edge of the lake, there is a little fire that's going. There are a couple of things that have been set up over it, and there are some people happily cooking flapjacks on a griddle. Dr. Jensen feels a little bit of a rumble in his stomach as he's looking at those flapjacks. He's smelling like the butter that's getting put onto him. And he can't help but think a little bit back to Wilderness Heights. The smells of fresh food and the feeling of that rumble in his stomach just causes his mind to drift a little bit. How does Dr. Jensen feel about his interactions with Dr. Hazard?
He feels a little torn. One, he feels like he's relieved that he was able to help get Anne away from such a terrible place, but that there were others that just the opportunity did not allow for him to help get anyone else away from that woman and her quack theories. Are just absolutely ridiculous theories of starving people to the point of death, and that they're nothing but literal skin and bones is just ridiculous. And part of him I don't know. She just feels
Did she get under his skin at all?
she did. He just doesn't know. It bugs him. Because he wrestles with the ideas and part of him knows that what she's what she's done, what her the current state of that sanitarium is a perverted vision gone way too far. But he understands the drive to try and help people in any way possible, even if it means sometimes going to certain extremes. Sometimes to save the person, you have to cut off a leg. But he still just can't, part of that gnaws in the back of his head, but he is thoroughly convinced that this woman was just beyond the pale.
A monster.
Yeah, it's left him in a state that he's...
Does he feel like he's got some unfinished business there?
Oh, absolutely. Between the woman and her husband, and honestly, the familiar nature of which she seems to have held herself, especially acting like she knew more of Dr. Jensen when he obviously hadn't heard anything of her, is a little bit more concerning to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
He does not like the idea of any sort of reputation preceding him other than ones that he feels like he's established, which he doesn't feel being new to this region of the country. He feels like, was more draw concern that she knew who he was than anything else.
Mm-hmm. So Dr. Jensen is able to kind of sit down by the fire, dry himself out a little bit, and is treated by the Burling champion to a heavy stack of pancakes.
That will help. You would be appreciative of that.
Mm-hmm. A short stack fixes most things.
He's a little less cantankerous now.
A little less, but still at least a little bit cantankerous.
Well, that empathy score is not going up on its own.
And it never will. We drift from that campfire to another and see Sofie watching the champion tale teller walking away, celebrating, being like, damn that beard. Sofie kind of looks back over at that large orange tent where the contra dance was going on and sees a couple of drunken revelers crash into each other, which immediately leads to a rapid escalation of shouting and then followed by a fist fight as their friends try and drag them away.
Right?
And it makes Sofie very briefly reflect on people losing control of themselves. Does Sofie have any thoughts about how things shook out in the mystery with her impaired impulse control?
She does. There are a couple of things that have been that she's been thinking about since then. Number one, this is not related to the impulse control, but the whole thing with Anne and Thomas is like, she had a little bit of, it was a little bit painful for her to watch because she sees them and, they're so young and old enough to, to be mature enough to know, that they can be happy together and everything, but still very young to her. And it just sort of hits her in the gut. Like they've had obviously a very traumatic situation that they've gotten through, and she's very happy for them. But it just reminds her of how any opportunity for that kind of a situation was never, she was never going to have that. That was sort of stolen from her. And she's not constantly dwelling on it, but, when she's ever since then, like when she goes to sleep at night, she has to kind of force herself not to, to think about something else and not think about regrets and stuff, because she tries not to dwell on regret and
Darker days.
She doesn't want to think about, exactly, like where she was when she was in her early 20s or whatever, and what she had to overcome. And and everything. So that kind of hit her. But also, at the time, what went down in the sanitarium was there was a lot of adrenaline, and we were trying to escape and, trying to get Anne out of there. And, there wasn't time to worry. We just had to defend ourselves. And she doesn't regret defending herself, and especially Anne and Thomas. But she does kind of wonder what those employees, what were their stories, why were they there? Were they there because they had to have that job, or were they there because they were complicit in what was happening? And she does lean towards they all had to have been somewhat complicit, because they were keeping people there who were clearly very, very ill and who were being made more ill. And many of them probably knew about deaths that were occurring there and, hadn't reported anything to the authorities, and they were still working there. And so, she's not super
beat up
upset
about
it. Yeah. And she's encountered death before, we'll say, and violence and stuff like that to an extent. So it's not like eating her up, but she does kind of think back on it and think, I hope that what we did was right. And I hope that, maybe at some point we can go back and do more for not only the people that were stuck there, the patients, but also see if any of the employees need to be liberated, if you will, as well, or need any assistance. Yeah.
And it's while kind of thinking these thoughts that Sofie rests a hand onto one of her dress pockets and hears the little crinkle of paper from a letter that she's received. It was several months ago that she sent a letter to Ivar Axeman, a Norwegian linguist who is currently working on the definitive Norwegian alphabet and language, effectively writing the Norsk Ordbok, or effectively the first Norwegian dictionary. Aaron, does Sofie take a look at the contents of Ivar's letter?
She will, she's still seated around the fire. She will go, get up and go somewhere a little bit more secluded.
Yeah, there are spots kind of in between some of the tents and in between some of the carts where there's some space. Nobody's over there.
Yeah, so she'll go and she takes a deep breath and opens the letter.
All right, and would you read the contents to us?
Dear Miss Ingesdottir, it is my great pleasure to make your acquaintance. I must admit I have received few letters of such interest in my linguistic project from the Americas. As I'm sure you're aware, my work composing the definitive Norwegian language dictionary has taken me up and down our beautiful country, studying local dialects and regional language diversification. We have for so long been a country without a mother tongue, and I hope to see within my lifetime the proliferation of New Norsk, or the New Norse language. I suspect this is why you have contacted me concerning the patterns you found. Of course, there certainly would be no Norseman to ever reach the Pacific Northwest, despite how many of our countrymen continue to travel to your lands these days. I regret to say that I must use the word patterns rather than runes, because I am afraid the sample drawings you sent bear no correlation to any of the long branch or short twig runes we have documented. It is my supposition that perhaps a farmer or fisherman traveling to the Americas drew the runes you found from memory, perhaps while thinking back to his homeland. I am sorry to send such a note, especially given the long distance our correspondence must travel. I did note in your letter that you hadn't mentioned where you found these particular runes. I would assume perhaps on an amulet or coin that came from Norway, but if they were on something like a stone structure, my interest would be quite piqued. It almost makes me perhaps wonder if some of the more far-fetched theories I've heard in my time concerning the saga of the Greenlanders and Eric the Red may have a seed of truth. Stories of North America being the mythical Vinland of the sagas. Can you imagine Norsemen living upon North American shores? Certainly preposterous, but a delightful fancy.
Sofie has read this letter at least a half dozen times. How is she feeling right now?
I wonder what he'd say if he found out what they're really on.
Does she just fold it right back up and put it back in her pocket?
She just stares at it blankly for a minute. She feels a little bit defeated because she thought maybe she was trying not to be too optimistic about the contents, but she still, hoped that there would be some information. So she's pretty disappointed that there wasn't anything, but, onwards, we'll keep trying. I'll try and figure out someone else to ask or something.
New sources to pursue.
Mm-hmm. The least he could have done was send me the latest episode of Sherlock Holmes. He's closer than I am.
All right. And are there any other scenes that the PCs want to set up?
Sorry.
I thought for sure Bill had something. Listener, you couldn't see it, but Bill just suddenly got so excited and started just pumping his fists. And like, Bill is really into the game. Wait, wrong game.
He's into
Bill is into
game.
the basketball.
I'm sorry. It's once a year, guys.
Don't worry about it.
It's totally fine. It was just really funny.
The timing was just so good.
Yeah.
Nerds can love sports too. Go Hawks.
Hello, it's your Game Master, Brian. This has been quite the episode, with storytelling, axe throwing, burling, and Bill enjoying some fine basketball, huh? And what about that letter for Sofie? Well, fun fact, the person Sofie received that letter from, Ivar Esen, was a real Norwegian linguist. In fact, he's credited as the father of the modern Norwegian language. We try to work in a lot of fun history facts in our show, especially about Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. Spoiler, sometimes these will be big reveals if you're familiar with local history, and other times they might just be fun little Easter eggs. If you want to improve your odds of catching them, though, I have got a podcast for you to check out. It's called Rainy Day Rabbit Holes, and it's an amazing collection of stories, folklore, and humor all about the Pacific Northwest. The hosts Jody and Shay make these stories fun, approachable, and absolutely hilarious. So give them a listen.
I'm Shay.
And I'm Jody.
We host the Rainy Day Rabbit Holes podcast, a deep dive into the misty mysteries of the Pacific Northwest.
From the untold stories of eccentric pioneers to the secrets buried deep in the moss-covered forests, we take you on a not-so-serious journey through the quirky tales and hidden stories of the region.
On our show, you can hear great content like
Dr. Dewey's teachings propelled Linda Hazard into a lifetime career of starving people for money under the auspices of healing.
I could do that.
Run a cult or
Both.
and thoughtful insights like
Doll's son Charles is burned, and poor Sparky is killed. RSVP poor Sparky.
no, not RSVP, RIP.
Oh, sorry. From coffee pioneers Starbucks to feet on a beach and even Bigfoot, we have something for everyone.
So grab your latte and hit play. Listen, learn, and laugh with Rainy Day Rabbit Holes. See you down the rabbit hole.
All right. Any scenes that, Phoenix, you want to have with Julian or other PCs or NPCs? Bill, anything that you would want to have for Dr. Jensen?
I don't think anything in particular for Julian.
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I mean, he might head on down to go visit Big Bill a time or two, but otherwise.
Mm-hmm. So the three of you kind of come back together after having gone your separate ways to search and relax and have a good time here at the Axeman's Carnival. And just as you're about to say, you know what? I don't know if there's a guy here.
Oh, right.
You are accosted by a gentleman selling questionable goods. Come one, come all, come you three, fine individuals, to behold the treasures of Dr. Perriman's Wagon of Wonders. Yes, just so, step this way and look upon the strange, the mysterious, perhaps even the magical. The man is wearing a puce-colored suit and a pork pie hat atop his head. He has wide white handlebar mustache and a thin white goatee and a pair of wire-rimmed spectacles atop his thin nose. His arms are only slightly more expressive than his face, as he makes wide, sweeping gestures toward a host of objects and even a dog who sits primarily on a counter lowered from his wagon. Yes, come closer. I can see you are people of distinction, of repute. No, closer still. I suspect you might be the types. And he kind of looks conspiratorially around. You might be interested in objects and concoctions of a perhaps more arcane nature. Unless I miss my mark, and I assure you I never do. I have tonics. I have rare exports brought to you from the shores of Scandinavia. I saw your ears perk up there. Yes, come closer now. Come on. Come take a look at what I have for sale.
I have a really important question.
Yes.
Is Yortz sneezing?
That is a fantastic question. Yes.
Oh, shit. I did not.
You're getting a little cat snuffle.
I did not expect that to be a yes. Okay. I'll elbow my friends here and glance at Yortz.
So, I have just sent you each a Google Doc. This is going to contain a series of items. I will tell you now, as Yortz has confirmed, at least one of these is legit.
Phoenix will tell you I love a creepy doll. I will put it in my bag of holding and keep it forever.
The way this will work is you may make a purchase of one of these items.
Ooh.
You have to go through the normal purchasing rules, using a manipulation test and getting a bonus based on your resources. I will also allow you to make a learning test on one item to discern its true nature. Now, I will also give you the full rundown, and I will do the voice for whichever item you are interested in purchasing. But listener, so you know, our current items on sale are a potion of pep, a gold-sniffing dog, a wizard's tonic, the ancestor's eye, the gallows rope, rare antique volumes of Scandinavian history, and a haunted doll.
Sofie is like caressing the volumes of Scandinavian history. Like if she can't buy them, she will steal them.
Amazing. Would you like to make a learning test to learn the secrets of those and whether they're legit or not?
Boy, would I. So, learning will be 3 + 5. Okay, so that's 2 successes on 8 dice.
Okay, you check out these rare antique volumes of Scandinavian history, and Dr. Perriman excitedly leans in.
Wait. I'm so sorry. Do we have to pick which thing we are trying to determine if it's Vossen related?
Yes.
Because if so, I don't want to pick the tomes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not a worry.
I just was so excited about doing a learning test for the tomes. I just went for it. So I want to confer with my friends to see which we think.
I will also say you could use an investigation test if you would prefer. So it's learning or investigation, whichever one you want.
Well, I get 2 more dice for investigation, so.
Really? I would have thought that you were crushing it with learning.
Yeah, I keep putting stuff into investigation for whatever reason. I don't know.
So feel free to confer. Each of you gets 1 shot to identify an item.
Oh.
You spend
Okay, sorry. I thought we all had to pick 1 item out of all of them, and that was it.
So you each get 1 opportunity to try and identify an item using kind of D&D terminology to figure out what it actually is. And you will then get 1 opportunity to purchase an item.
Okay.
Boy, I'm really having to tame my own instincts to just it doesn't even matter if it's real or fake. I just want to get the dog.
Yeah.
Right?
We need the
It's
dog.
Augie. We'd have Augie with
We
us.
need the dog.
Who's a
Yours
good
needs a
doggy?
friend.
Who's a good doggy?
We're getting the dog. I don't care if the dog is real. We don't even need to identify it. We should just get the dog.
Dr. Jensen would be interested in trying to understand more about the ancestor's eye.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to try and identify that one?
I think that'd be the one he'd go for.
Okay. As you take a closer look at it, Dr. Perriman excitedly leans forward. Ah, you are a patron of discernment. Yes, this is a powerful relic, a device of magic known as a troll's eye. Such a magic crystal can allow its holder to perceive things outside the norm, perhaps even plucking answers to life's riddles and mysteries from the thin air of dreams themselves. Bill, make an investigation or a learning test.
Oh, that will be an investigation. Oh, well, on 7 dice, I have 2 successes.
Nice.
All right. Dr. Jensen kind of looks over this thing, pokes around at it. You are sure beyond a shadow of a doubt this is a mundane crystal ball.
Okay.
Nice.
Of course. Fine. I'm sorry, you said a troll's eye. Yes, I can tell.
Indeed!
Quite,
You can see the calcification of the trollishness from it. Yes, quite. Indeed.
Yes, you're lucky the cataracts never quite set in. Otherwise, it'd be much more murky of a sphere, wouldn't it?
Ah, I can see you are indeed a patron of the arts.
Okay, so now that I understand that we each get a turn to, identify something, I'll go ahead and identify the books. So
Okay.
I interrupted you needlessly, sorry.
So as soon as you start kind of looking over this stack of books, he immediately kind of whips towards you. Ah, my word, but you have a good eye. These ancient tomes hold many a secret a discerning buyer might like to uncover. Come close. They are reputed to be the journals of an ancient and heretical order, purportedly operating out of an abandoned monastery in northern Sweden. By day, they pose as simple clerks, stewards, and monks, but by night, it's said they scribe their names into the devil's own books. These aren't those, of course. No. These are merely an account of those books and the secretive goings-on of the cabal, whose doings were observed by a penitent member from the inside. Unfortunately, Sofie is able to translate what's going on in these books. These are completely useless books, detailing the minutes of an antiquarian linguist society out of Gothenburg.
I was about to say, Brian, hold up. There are no useless books, but that's pretty useless.
Is Julian going to try and identify anything?
He sees Sofie getting all excited, and it calls back some memories of when she was a little out of her head. And fortunately, I had a spare spa day to spare. And he's looking at the wizard's tonic and wondering, maybe next time? And so, yeah, he'll take a peek at that wizard's tonic.
Nice.
A most amazing and miraculous cure. Soothes worries, eases jangled nerves, and utilizes sacred healing waters to open up one's senses to the vastness of the world's mysteries. Make an investigation or a learning test.
I'm sorry, that was manipulation, you said?
Nope. If you're buying it, then yes.
Respect the hustle.
1 success on 3 dice.
Nice.
You just very lightly kind of lift the cork on this bottle liquid, and that sweet, sweet smell that comes flowing out. This is a bottle of ether.
Wow.
So it's
Well,
accurate.
definitely solve your problems for a minute. Just give you new problems.
Wait a minute.
But...
I could find a use of that.
You are aware that ether is a euphoric drug that one can take.
So I'm getting drugs and a dog. I love this game.
Now, you can only choose to purchase one item.
Well, since we know those 3 are fake, we should purchase the other 3, right?
Possibly.
That's one each.
Yep, you get to purchase one. You get to attempt to purchase one item each. Although I
All
think
right.
that some of you still have some capital left.
So do we want to just do this as are we being strategic about this, or are we just going for it?
It's up to you.
Hang on, let me see how much capital I have.
I insist that somebody buys the dog.
Well, then I feel like it should be one of you, because that's only availability 1. So if
Yeah,
I'm going to use my
I only have 1 capital left from between the end of last mission and now.
Does that mean
So-
he could just buy the dog outright? Without...
Yep.
There you go.
He still gets a manipulation test first because you might not have to spend his capital. But remember, capital also doesn't roll over.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bill, if you want to, you can just say, I spend my 1 capital to buy the dog.
Well, but I only get so if I roll manipulation and get the dog, would I get the dog for free if I had a high enough score?
Effectively, yeah.
Could I then give my capital to like Aaron to pool for a different item?
I would permit it.
All right, so let me roll for the dog then. Manipulation, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Oh, empathy. Oh boy.
You know, your strong stat.
Why am I doing this again?
Because it's only a 1 that you need to get.
And Bill, you're also middle class, so you get a +1 bonus.
Oh, well, so I rolled 2 of the dice. I
2
did not get a
dice.
success with there, but if I get 1 more D6, I did not succeed there either. I just hand over the 1 gold, or the 1 capital.
All right. So you have successfully purchased a dog.
Yay.
He kind of holds his hands over his chest. Oh, it pains me to let her go. A rare Sierra Madre collie with the unique ability to sniff out gold. It was trained as a pup by the mysterious creature known as the Squonk, and now lives to serve. A true shame to part with her. But if it was going to be going to the best of homes, maybe I could stand it. Barely. Her name is Augie.
So Yortz is exactly like Tookie, and he's like friend. So he's
And
definitely already taken Augie out.
this dog that is absolutely not any breed of collie excitedly starts waving its tail, being like, yes, hello, friend-shaped friend.
Friend shapes.
And what is Sofie going to purchase?
Okay. So I don't know how much capital I have left. Is what is on my sheet? Is that right?
It is. I went through the episodes and make sure it all lined up because exciting news, listener. Roll20 added a section for how much money we have. That didn't used to be in the character sheet.
That's cool.
And I'll have you note, Sophie's fucking loaded.
I am. It's true.
Sofie has 5 capital.
Woo! Oh, did you just not buy anything at the start of the mystery last time?
Nope, she saved it.
Well, okay.
Yeah. So the other things would be the potion of pep or the haunted doll. Okay.
Or the gallows
so-
rope.
Or the what? Oh, the gallows. Oh, there's 7 things, not 6 things. Crap. All right.
It's like I planned it.
I know. That's rude, Brian.
That's how I do.
Go for your doll. You know you want the creepy doll.
Okay. Listen.
It's not a judgment call. I'm saying go
No.
for it.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying an actual creepy doll, like a literal doll, extremely creepy, and I don't really like it. Somewhat fake creepy teddy bears, yeah, I'm down. I'm gonna keep those. But an actual creepy doll, I don't know if I can do that.
If you're not happy with it, new chew toy for Augie.
Yeah, but I don't want Augie to get possessed by creepy ghost girl.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is if it's just a creepy doll.
If it's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. I'll go for the creepy doll.
All right, make a manipulation test.
This is gonna go great.
Absolutely.
My manipulation is so
Now, you do actually have
good.
a bonus at this, too, on account of how much money you have. Your resources is 6 now, so you actually get a +2 bonus on this test.
Yeehaw. I got 1 success on 6 dice.
All right, do you want to spend 2 capital to be able to get that haunted doll?
I will do it.
As you go to pick it up, he reaches out with both hands. Look away! I do not wish to lay this item upon my goodly wares, but here we find ourselves. When I set out today, she was restrained, bound. Yet I was perhaps foolish to think that she might stay so. I confess to you, I do not know her history, but look upon her cold black eyes. Look upon her porcelain features, cracked and broken and hastily reassembled, lest someone meet her wrath. Whatever dark spirit resides within this doll, I do not know, and I should hasten to add that I do not wish to know. But she is a powerful presence. I fear for my safety if I should part with her for something as base as mere money. But of course, if I were to do so, I would need quite a bit of cash to secure myself against her possible wrath.
Of course.
And so some money changes hands, and you pick up a haunted doll.
Number 1,
Mm-hmm.
I am now utterly convinced that it's a mundane item. Number 2, have you watched the pale blue eye yet?
Not yet.
Because you sound exactly like Edgar Allan Poe in that movie. Like,
Nope.
I just like the scene. I just like this scene, and I feel like Julian should be proud of Sofie at this point, where this guy goes this whole soliloquy about how dangerous his doll is, and he can't part with it because he's afraid of what would happen unless he gets a lot of money. And Sophie's like, "Well,
I have money.
let's bring it down about 20%. Deal."
yeah.
I have a disposable income and poor decision making.
Hey, I haggled a little bit.
you got a third off.
Yeah.
It's great. No, but I just like, no, I need considerable money. I'll give you 2/3 of what you're asking. Done.
All right. And last but not least, Julian, what are you going to be purchasing, if anything, from these questionable wares?
I'm actually kind of thinking I might just go ahead and buy the ether, but looking at the other things, I will ask my colleagues. So there's another potion and a gallows rope.
So you have a potion that you don't know what it does, which is the mysterious Potion of Pep. The Wizard Tonic, which is definitely ether. And the Gallows Rope that you don't know if it's legit or not.
Any preference?
I feel like the gallows rope is probably the most interesting, but I don't know. Maybe not the most useful, and of course it could be a piece of junk.
Is the bottle of ether, I mean, is there actually like a game statistic for that? Like, does it do something?
Yep, it does. Let me open up a supplement I wrote about drugs in the Victorian era, and I'll tell you. Product placement. Everyone loves a little product placement.
You can knock people out with it at least.
If only we had video, you could have nonchalantly held up the book, just like, I'm just casually reading this.
I mean, I can't do that. It's a PDF.
Oh, shit.
So, ether gives a +2 bonus for resisting fear.
It's what people used to use, like, when people go to the dentist and stuff. Instead of, like, laughing gas, they would put ether over people's faces so that they would just be like, yeah.
I almost feel like I should just buy the ether.
Now, an important note, ether also has a toxicity to it.
What is this, The Witcher?
Funny story about all of the drugs that I created. They all have potential toxicity to them.
As well they should.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
And some of the drugs will also potentially have addictive qualities.
Stay in school, kids. Don't do drugs.
Oh,
Unless they're
God.
good drugs.
Julian's going to be an ether junkie.
I'm not the one who's been failing my fear tests. Now I will in the entire next mystery, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Now you've done it.
Yeah, I really set myself up on that one. Yeah, great. It's fine. I think I'm just going to buy the ether.
All right. Make a manipulation test.
Yeah, that's 3 successes on 9 dice.
You have secured the wizard tonic. So feel free to add an ether to your inventory.
Hooray.
Now, dear listeners and players,
1 drugs, please.
I will tell you what the items we did not identify are next session.
Oh, damn it, Brian!
The worst!
Rude.
That's how I do. All right. You all report back to Matthias that there may have been some kind of magical item, and Yort certainly seemed to indicate it, but it mostly seemed like literal vendor trash.
And a good puppers.
And a good puppers. You got that. You did get Augie.
Today overall has been a success. We won 2 contests out of 3, and we got a dog.
And I will actually hand the ether over to the doctor. And yeah, I think maybe you should hold on to this. Not that I think you need to hold on to it. I think you're the professional who knows how to properly administer these, right? That's how this works.
Dr. Jensen takes off the cork, just very like, oh, yep. Yeah, that's it. All right. No, I'll keep a hold of that. Oh.
Medical professional.
That'll clear out your sinuses.
Yes.
All right, so I got a little bit of wrap up. On a warm night, several weeks after the Axeman's Carnival, you find yourselves taking a well-earned break in one of the ground floor studies in the library. Thanks to Madame Lou's generous gratitude, you've been able to make significant developments in the library's headquarters. Of course, due to the sensitive nature of what goes on here, Matthias has assigned the 3 of you the task of making certain that Madame Lou's workmen don't see anything that they shouldn't. And also that old Agda isn't too disturbed by the sounds of construction. It's been a busy couple of weeks, but things are finally settling down again. With the work on the new facility completed and the infirmary finally ready, you're able to take the evening to relax and appreciate all of your hard work. You have a profound sense of fulfillment from a job well done. As the last workmen leave, the 3 of you share a rich meal and a few drinks in the study, and maybe Dr. Jensen pops open some ether. Perhaps it was the heavy food, the potent glasses of port, the hot summer night, or all of that ether, but you found yourselves drifting off to sleep in comfortable plush chairs, free of responsibilities, threats of monsters and dangers. For at least one night, you relax and drift away. Your dreams are vivid, almost as though they were real and tangible. And perhaps the strangest dream of all, you saw a creature who looked like both an owl and a human, with an angry, furrowed brow. He spoke in a high-pitched voice and said, "You have trespassed upon my kingdom, and your insolence shall not be tolerated any longer. We shall see you brought to the court, and we shall render our judgment." Of course, such flights of fancy must just be the product of your dreaming minds. Or are they? We'll find out next time.
Oh my god.
All right, thank you all so much. I am looking forward to our next session.
And thank you.
Thanks for fucking us up every episode, Brian. We love it.
That's what I'm here for. Thank you for listening to this episode of Spirits and Monsters of Old Seattle. Our theme song is Myths and Legends by Robert Bruckmeyer, which is playing right now. Our music is by Andreas Lundström, and you can hear more of his work on the Sweden Rolls podcast. Link in the show notes. Our editor is Hannah Cheney. If you're enjoying this show, please take 2 minutes to rate and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. I know every podcast says it, but it really does make a difference and helps us continue to grow the show. Finally, remember the motto of the library. Fear gives way to knowledge. Knowledge gives way to wisdom. And wisdom gives way to the truth. Until next time.